the abuses of power against parents, against pro-lifers, against Republican legislators, against state legislatures, the abuses of the voting system, which they're trying to impose on the rest of the nation, goes on and on and on. And for MSNBC, this is no big deal. And for the ranking Democrat, they just want to throw, Molotov cocktails in front of the train here and prevent anything from being investigated. On MSLSD, which is a useless carbon footprint, quite frankly, they have this guy, Chris Hayes. Chris Hayes looks, like he should be wearing a raincoat on the corner, if you get my drift. But in any event, he's considered one of the smarter among them. I think he used to write for Mother Jones or some radical left operation like that. And you see, these Republicans are daring to hold hearings. And they're daring to try and look into Hunter Biden and the Biden crime family, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, AKA the American Stasi, and its targeting of parents and pro-lifers, and its disparate treatment of Republicans versus Democrats, pro-lifers versus pro-aborters, and all the rest of it. And the Democrats are arguing conspiracy theories. The Republicans are working on conspiracy theories. We don't need any lectures from the Democrats or the media, as they've been chasing Trump for basically his entire political career, as they've been chasing down Republican legislators. The vice president, former Vice President Pence, has now received a subpoena, as lawyers are having attorney-client privilege ripped from them, due process ripped from them, appearing before a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C., controlled by a rogue prosecutor who lost the case 8-0. One justice was not involved, in which he was effectively admonished because he went too far in the prosecution of a former Republican governor of Virginia, a guy by the name of McDonald. And on and on and on it goes. You know the stories. The FBI monitoring us, the FBI working with Twitter and big tech platforms to silence anybody who disagrees with the CDC, or to pretend that there were Russian bots operating when there weren't, or to condemn anybody who might say something that they consider unpatriotic, like a traditional practicing Catholic. This is where the FBI is, and it's not the first time. The FBI has a long history under Hoover and beyond of threatening the civil liberties of Americans, and it's certainly doing so right now. The Democrats are all for it. The Democrats are all for totalitarianism as long as they're in control. They don't believe in the objective truth of law enforcement, that they should be doing certain things regardless of your political affiliation. You commit a crime, you do the time, that sort of thing. They don't buy into that. If you're Republican, you're the enemy. You stand in the way of their all-consuming interest in one-party rule, and therefore you either step out of the way like rhinos do, you help them like Mitch McConnell does and Romney does, or if you literally stand up against them, understand what they're trying to do, and fight them, well, they want to destroy you and your family, and that's what we're dealing with. So let's take a look at this from MSLSD and this guy, Chris Hayes. Go.
By now, you have surely seen some of the lowlights from the opening meeting of the new House Subcommittee on the Weaponization of Government yesterday, a show that was so lackluster that Fox News didn't even take it live. Ouch.
Okay, hold on. Fox News has commercial obligations like any other commercial platform does. It's not, how would they know in advance that it's lackluster, number one? So the logic doesn't even make sense. Number two, lackluster, why? Why? Because it's not put on like a Hollywood show, the way the January 6th committee left out information? Part of the problem the Republicans have here is not that it's lackluster, but Democrats are running interference constantly for rogue operators, because the rogue operators are working on behalf of the Democrats and the Biden administration. So if they ran it like the January 6th committee, you wouldn't have all these Democrats throwing their bodies in front of the train here on behalf of the Biden administration. They have no interest in all the abuses of power that's taking place, because this is a different Democrat Party than the Church Committee and these other committees half a century and so ago. This Democrat Party is a radicalized party It is an American Marxist party when it comes to our economic system, when it comes to our police and crime, when it comes to the border, and even when it comes to national security. Go.
Of course, it was a kind of grab bag of Fox News-style grievance, though a poorly produced one. At the heart of all this, though, there is an actual threat, and it's that Republicans use this committee to essentially interfere with ongoing criminal investigations of the ex-president.
So there you have it. The guy doesn't explain at all what took place during this hearing. Nothing. And then he goes on attack on Fox. Then he goes to attack the members, that they're simply mouthpieces repeating what Fox says. The Washington Post did pretty much the same thing. So this is how unserious these platforms are. Go ahead.
That's the danger the subcommittee's ranking member, Stacey Plaskett, laid out. If you were having a conversation with this constituent...
Isn't it interesting? He just brings on the ranking member, Stacey Plaskett, whoever the hell that is, to do an analysis of the committee that's run by the Republicans. So she's all smiling. She's ready for a softball interview. Go ahead.
St. Croix. And they said, what's the deal with this committee? What would be your, 60-second, 30-second version of what this committee is?
Sure. That this committee is the Republican Party's attempt to utilize the congressional process to air previous grievances and to set the stage for conspiracy theories.
All right, that's enough for her and him. This is very interesting. So the committee's going after Trump over a phone call with Zelensky, which was a perfectly fine phone call. They concocted an impeachment over one word. They impeached Donald Trump a second time, even though he'd become a private citizen, based on something that never occurred. He didn't lead an insurrection and all the rest of it. They pushed for a special prosecutor against Trump on a matter that was concocted by the Hillary campaign, the DNC, other Democrats, and the American Stasi. And that went on for 2 years, the criminalization of Trump's presidency, with a phony dossier that was paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. Then they go after Trump's tax returns. They get 6 years of his tax returns. They say because they have a legislative oversight responsibility. The Supreme Court agrees with them. They get it 2 weeks before they have to leave the majority. They have no legislative intent whatsoever. They leak all of his taxes to the public, and there's no criminality of any kind in his taxes. Collusions and conspiracy theories. Trump with the Russians. There was no Trump with the Russians. In fact, Trump stood up to the Russians far more than Biden ever did. Certainly more than the Democrat Party ever did. I remember when they conspired with the Soviet Union against Reagan. Their great hero, Ted Kennedy, among others. So, conspiracy theories, seriously, ladies and gentlemen, you have Joe Biden today, who's running around saying the Republicans want to destroy Social Security and Medicare. There's not a single Republican, including Rick Scott, who's ever said anything of the sort. Although Joe Biden did say so in 1995 on the floor of the Senate. Oh, yes, he did. And I think we'll play that for you tomorrow, as a matter of fact, on Levin TV. So she's there saying, oh, this is just a circus. They took the Intelligence Committee, which is supposed to be working full-time to protect us from the likes of the Communist Chinese and the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran and the inbred in North Korea and all the rest of the genocidal maniacs. And what were they focused on? Getting Trump under Adam Schiff, who now wants to be a senator and was endorsed by Nancy Pelosi, who lied to the American people, who lied about his knowledge of this so-called whistleblower, who lied that he had evidence to prove that Trump this, that, or the other, and he had no evidence whatsoever. They were handing out Pulitzer Prizes to the Washington Post and the New York Times and all the rest. And they're concerned about one hearing that took place with this special committee. One hearing. And what are they doing with it? Well, it's politicized. And what was the headline there that MSNBC had, that it was a clown show? They didn't spend a second covering the substance of the allegation. So they don't want to know anything about how the Joe Biden family got rich, worth tens of millions of dollars. He's on the public payroll his entire life, except for 2 years. They don't want to know anything about Hunter Biden's laptop. They never did. They pretend it was all a Russian trick. as we now know, and we knew before, it was not. So the Democrat Party and the media covered that up. They don't want to talk to Tony Bobolinsky. Why? He's an eyewitness. He's a guy with absolute credibility. He's willing to talk. He talked to the FBI, and then they blew him off. The FBI's had the laptop for about 2 years now. They've done absolutely nothing with it. Everybody has knowledge that the laptop emails as well as texts. What do? They indict Joe Biden as the big guy, as Mr. 10%. I mean, it comes out of the mouth of his son, Hunter Biden. Now people are looking at James Biden, part of the Biden crime family, and the millions he made. They've made tens of millions of dollars from the communist Chinese regime alone. Peter Schweitzer has written about it. Hook, line, and sinker, he's provided it. The evidence is overwhelming, and they don't want to know anything. They don't want to know anything. Why is there a special counsel investigating Trump on multiple fronts? Why was there an earlier special counsel investigating Trump when he was president? There's no special counsel investigating the Biden crime family and Mr. Gotti himself, Joe Biden, the Manchurian president. Yes, on the classified documents, but not on the Biden family generally. Why is it that Secretary Yellen refuses to release these wire transactions, suspicious wire transactions that occur between members of the Biden family and other countries, including Hunter Biden? She has no right to withhold that information from the House of Representatives, so that's going to have to be litigated, but she's covering that up. What are they afraid of? And there's hundreds of them, apparently, that raise serious questions. They're slow-walking this whole thing in terms of the release of information. The Attorney General has told the Republicans in the House, both Comer and Jordan, well, we'll cooperate to a point, but beyond that, we really can't help you. And of course, the White House. Why did Joe Biden just get a $250,000 loan on his home? Why did he do that? Not for his representation, but no doubt to help Hunter in his representation. So the list goes on and on and on. The abuses of power against parents, against pro-lifers, against Republican legislators, against state legislatures, the abuses of the voting system, which they're trying to impose on the rest of the nation, goes on and on and on. And for MSNBC, this is no big deal. And for the ranking Democrat, they just want to throw, Molotov cocktails in front of the train here and prevent anything from being investigated. That's exactly what's going on here. So much for MSNBC.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.